In this video, I'm going to show you how you could build a $39 Winota Joiner of Forces Commander deck. Let's get started. Total cost of this deck was just under $39 as of the day of recording. Prices were checked using mtgstocks.com. Do note that prices fluctuate, so they may be above or below where you see them listed at in this video. This deck is 1DH legal, meaning all the cards in the deck are $1 or under, with the exception of the commander, who can be up to $5. Our commander is Winota, a 4-to-cast 4/4. She's a human that reads, whenever a non-human creature you control attacks, look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may put a human creature card from among them onto the battlefield tapped and attacking. It gains indestructible until end of turn. Put the rest of the cards on the bottom of your library in a random order. Winota is an exceptionally good commander because she helps you in 2 ways. One, she gets you card advantage because she's pulling humans off the top of your library. And then not only that, she helps accelerate your game plan because she puts them directly onto the battlefield, tapped and attacking with indestructible. In playtesting this deck, I was able to get turn 5 wins, which is exceptionally fast for a 1DH deck. To do that, we need to talk about the Accelerants in the deck, which we're only running 5 of, but they do help our game plan. We start out with a couple of rocks in the Talisman of Conviction and the Guardian Idol, which can turn into a non-human and get an extra trigger for Winota when we don't need it for mana anymore. Same goes for the Gold Mirror, Iron Mirror, and the Mannequin. 3 of these are mana dorks, which tap for either our colors or colorless, and then when we don't need them, we can use them to help get extra triggers with Winota. Once we've gotten out our Accelerants, or possibly none depending on how the game goes, since we're only running 5, we want to get into our game plan, and we have 31 cards specific to our game plan. The game plan includes putting out non-human creatures so that we can get those Winota triggers. Most of those non-humans come before turn 4 or under 3 or under CMC in the Signal Pest, Tin Street Dodger, and the Goblin Instigator. The Instigator comes with an extra friend, and the other 2 creatures have their own built-in evasion. We also have Raise the Alarm, Midnight Haunting, and Hordling Outburst, sorceries and instants that get us some non-human creature tokens. Do try to play the instants just before you put Winota out if you can. The Executioner is another non-human spirit that comes with a spirit. It could have gone under the interference section of our deck tech, but I put it under the game plan because I ended up barely ever using its last ability, which says you can pay 3 and a white to exile it and exile target creature. So if you need to, in a pinch, you can use it for removal. Otherwise, it just helps add pressure and give you another non-human attacker. We also have some humans, quite a few humans that actually come in and help us get non-humans, such as the Loyal Apprentice and the Sky Knight Vanguard. Blade Splicer, PNLR, and the Thopter Engineer also come in as humans with some non-human creatures. And Pia and Kieran Nalar, as well as Winota, who doesn't technically come in with extra creatures or bring friends with her, but if you play her and are able to attack right away, then she ends up almost always bringing some friends with her. You do whiff occasionally in this deck. We are running 28 humans, I believe, so there's a potential to whiff, but most of the time you're going to get a hit. We also have Krenko, 10th Street Kingpin, who helps just pump out a ton of goblins if he doesn't get removed, as well as Genesis Chamber and Goblin Assault, Chandra, Acolyte of Flame. All 3 of these help us get extra tokens out and help accelerate our game plan by getting us into extra attacks with non-humans. Some Lord and Anthem type cards. We have Frontline Medic, which gives all of our attacking creatures indestructible. Benalish Marshal, which can pump our entire team, and Angrath's Marauders, which help double up the damage all of our creatures are dealing. Do note that the Medic can also counter a spell with X in its cost, unless its controller can pay 3, so it kind of has a mana drain on it. So try to remember that, as it may come into play, although most of the time you're just applying so much pressure and wiping people out so fast, they're not casting X spells. Other Lord and Anthem type effects, we have Gold Knight Commander, which pumps our entire team every time a creature enters the battlefield. Victory's Envoy, which gives our team plus counters at the start of the turn. And Odric Lunarch Marshal, which can give our team First Strike, vigilance, flying, and haste. Geist Honored Monk and Silverwing Squadron are two huge creatures that help accelerate by getting extra non-humans onto the battlefield. And then we have Gerard, Weatherlight Hero, who is great at protecting us from wrath type effects. Do note that the monk as well as the squadron have vigilance, and you can attack as well as leave them up for blocks. Apostle's Blessing gives us protection from targeted removal, and then Rootborn defenses and Make a Stand help keep us protected from more wrath type effects. Rootborn defenses also populates, so it can accelerate us even a little further, or we can use Make a Stand to help wipe out an opponent by pumping our entire team up. Spirit Bonds is twofold in this deck in that it helps protect us by allowing us to make a creature indestructible until end of turn, but it also can allow us to dump extra mana into it to put out more spirit tokens. That's it for our game plan. Next we're going to talk about cards that interfere with our opponent's game plan. And we'll start out with Valorous Stance, which is also twofold. It can protect us by giving a creature indestructible. Almost always you're going to use that protection such as Apostle's Blessing or Valorous Stance to protect Winota, as she's a removal magnet. But it can also help remove your opponent's big creatures if they got 4 or more toughness. Banisher Priest and Fiend Hunter are humans that enter and exile a creature. You're usually going to want to target your opponent's commanders if they're out. Otherwise, just pick your favorite target. Mob Rule allows us to steal our opponent's creatures and help get extra Winota triggers. I kind of considered it interference in that you were stealing your opponent's creatures, and a lot of times I just went for opponent removal. If I didn't have a way to get rid of some problematic permanent they had out, I would just continue beating on them as much as I could. This deck consistently got turn 6 and turn 7 wins, so you really have the ability to put out a lot of power. Response allows us to deal with a mid to big size attacking or blocking creature, or better yet, we have player removal in Resurgence because that helps get us an extra combat step, which helps get us extra Winota triggers. War Priest of Thune helps us get rid of enchantments. Manic Vandal and Release the Gremlins help us get rid of artifacts. Release the Gremlins is cool because it also gives us a non-human attacker. Devote Chaplain and True Love's Kiss help us exile problematic artifacts and enchantments. Bounty's Agent usually removes our opponent's legendary commanders. However, you can also use it on other legendary creatures, artifacts, or enchantments. Unexpectedly Absent temporarily removes a problematic non-land permanent. And then Phyrexian Rebirth can wipe the board and leave us with a big non-human attacker. Dusk is somewhat of a one-sided board wipe in that a good number of our creatures are under power 3, so we're going to be wiping the board of a lot of our opponent's creatures if we use it, but it also has a second aftermath effect that we can cast it from our graveyard for 5 and return all creature cards with power 2 or less from our graveyard to our hand. So this can help us rebuild if somebody has wiped the board of all of our creatures. Next, we're going to talk about the cards that provide us consistency in this deck. We are running 9 of them. Similar to the Dusk to Dawn effect, we have Angel of Glory's Rise, a 7 to cast 4/6 flyer that says when it enters, exile all zombies and then return all human creature cards from your graveyard to the battlefield. So if we've been wiped out by somebody, this is a great insurance policy. Can help us stay in the game or get us back into the game. Mentor of the Meek gets tons of triggers. Since we have so many tokens entering the battlefield, we can just pay an extra 1 whenever we have some extra mana and draw some cards. And Thalia's Lancer can fetch up a bunch of different legendaries from this deck. I recommend you get Chandra, Acolyte of Flame, mostly because you can't pull her out off of Winota triggers. But if you don't want to do that, you could also get Gerard to help protect your board, or any of the other legendaries you liked. Cathartic Reunion allows us to cycle some of the cards, get rid of some we don't want, and hopefully draw into some extra gas. Furious Rise and Outpost Siege help get us card advantage turn over turn. We also have Tome of Legends, Sunset Pyramid, and Seer's Sundial, just to allow us to continue drawing cards and keep the pressure on. For lands, we are running 41 in this deck. We have Mishra's Factory, Forbidding Watchtower, and Needle Spires, all 3 lands which can turn into non-human creatures that we can use to get extra Winota triggers. as well as Dwarven Mine, which enters and gives us a token assuming we have 3 or more mountains on the battlefield. In playtesting, I did only get 1 dwarf off of this, but I think it's such a fun card that I had to include it. Rogue's Passage helps give one of our creatures unblockable, and then the Spine Rock Knoll gets us card advantage as it hides away a card, and then if we deal 7 damage or more in a turn to an opponent, which is very easy, we can pay a red and tap the Knoll to get that hidden away card. New Benalia helps smooth out our draws, and Forgotten Cave and Secluded Steppe we can cycle away if we don't need a land. Ash Baron's Myriad Landscape and Evolving Wilds help us fetch out the colors or basics we need, as does Terramorphic Expanse. Command Tower, Ancient Amphitheater, Boros Garrison, Boros Guildgate, Stone Quarry, Vivid Crag, Vivid Meadow, Temple of Triumph, and Windscarred Crag give us both of our colors in red-white. For basics, we are running 10 plains and 9 mountains. The average CMC of this deck was 3.13, so on the lower end for my play group. As you can see, there is the curve there. Quite a few 2 and 3 drop spells. Keys to victory in this deck. Be very intentional about when you play Winota. In play testing, I got excited a couple times and ran myself right into removal, either counter spells or my opponents had too much mana up. So it doesn't hurt to hold back a turn to play Winota 1 turn later if you are able to continue your game plan in other ways. Also, another key to victory is to remember your triggers. There are tons of triggers in this deck. I did most of my playtesting on MTGO, so it helps remember the triggers for you, but I imagine playing in paper would make it a lot harder, so try to remember all your triggers. And then lastly, life is a major resource. Use your life total. Allow your opponents to attack into you because you're going to be attacking for so much more. You're going to be drawing a lot of heat by pumping out so many creatures, and so you have to be smart about how much damage you allow yourself to take. A lot of times I was able to trade blockers if I wanted to with incoming attackers, but it seemed not worth it to me because I knew on my very next turn I was going to be able to attack with them and get another Winota trigger. In playtesting, this deck was a lot of fun, but I'm probably not going to keep it together because in playtesting online, I believe this deck was a little bit too fast for my play group and not really my game style. I like to play a little bit more of a back and forth game, and this really felt like I was steamrolling people. But if that's your style, give this deck a go. Here are a few cards I would consider if I were to go above that $1 price point. If you want to see some more ideas, check out the link in the description below. Better yet, share your thoughts in the comments what card you would upgrade with. That way, others can see your brilliant ideas and alter to their liking. If you liked the video, you should give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing. If you do, make sure you ring the bell so you don't miss any of the new weekly content from Budget Commander. Otherwise, you can check out the video in the top right or either of the playlists on the bottom.